For more than a year, relations between France and Algeria have been stuck in a downward spiral. Now, of course, this tension isn't new, and it has its roots in a violent colonial history that neither side has apparently fully reconciled. However, since last year, relations between the two countries have become even more strained, triggered by Paris' recognition of Moroccan sovereignty over the Western Sahara. Things came to a head last week when French President Emmanuel Macron revoked Algeria's diplomatic visa exemption and sent a letter to the French Prime Minister urging a tougher line against Algiers, saying France's stance needs to be, quote, strong and command respect. This has all triggered the worst diplomatic crisis between the two countries in years. So, in this video, we're going to take a look at France-Algerian relations, why recently things have gotten so bad, and what may happen next. Dive deeper into politics with our magazine Too Long. Yes, we made a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we discuss how El Salvador and Kosovo became 21st century penal colonies. We ask 6 experts what drives anti-establishment sentiment around the world, and ask if we're observing the end of the American order. Find out more by clicking the link in the description. Let's start with some context. Between 1830 and 1962, over 132 years, Algeria was under French rule. Unlike most colonies, Algeria was considered part of metropolitan France, meaning it was treated as if it were part of the French mainland. France refused to give it up, and when Algerians fought for independence, the war was among the bloodiest of the 20th century. More than 25,000 French soldiers were killed, and Algerian officials claim over 1 million Algerians died, which is why Algeria is still considered the country of a million martyrs, although we should say most historians put the true figure between 300,000 and 400,000. Then, in July 1962, Algeria officially broke free from France, after 99.72% of voters backed independence. Since then, the two countries have maintained strong economic and cultural ties. Trade is significant, and roughly 10% of France's population has Algerian roots. But political relations have been fraught. The core grievance for Algiers is that Paris has never fully acknowledged, let alone apologised for, its colonial crimes, and is instead trying to act as a post-colonial partner while retaining strategic control over its old sphere of influence. Meanwhile, many in France, particularly right-wing politicians, accuse Algeria's political leadership of rewriting history into a discourse based on hatred of France. This was essentially Macron's message in 2021, when he accused the politico-military system in power in Algiers of, quote, cashing in on memories of the war to justify its existence. This prompted Algeria to recall its ambassador, accuse France of genocide, and ban French military planes from its airspace. While things smoothed over a bit in summer 2022 after Macron visited Algiers and acknowledged that colonial crimes had been committed, over the past year, tensions have once again reignited. The turning point came last summer when Paris recognised Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara territory, a move that infuriated Algeria. For some context, often called Africa's last colony, Western Sahara is a UN-designated non-self-governing territory in northwest Africa, bordering Morocco and Algeria. Formerly a Spanish colony, it's now mostly controlled by Morocco, with the rest under the Algerian-backed Polisario Front, which has demanded full independence. Algeria has hosted the Polisario's main base and tens of thousands of Sahrawi refugees for decades. While its motives are debated, Algiers frames its support as both an anti-colonial stance and a strategic counterweight to Morocco. France has long tried to balance relations with both Algeria and Morocco, which is also a former French colony, but several disputes with Morocco in recent years over visas, the Pegasus spyware scandal, Moroccan divestment from French companies, and Rabat's recall of its ambassador in February 2023, to name just a few issues, strained the France-Morocco relationship. In this context, last year, Paris's decision to endorse Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara looked like an effort to mend ties, align France with Spain, the US, Israel and others, secure influence in North Africa, strengthen counter-terrorism cooperation in the Sahel, and safeguard French business interests. But for Algeria, it was a red line, leading to the recall of its ambassador from Paris. Attempts to mend ties following the dispute were short-lived. In March, Macron and the Algerian president agreed a roadmap for easing tensions, but a series of diplomatic expulsions and tit-for-tat scuppered any chance of reconciliation. Things kicked off in April. French prosecutors indicted 3 Algerians, including a consular official, for alleged involvement in the 2024 abduction of a high-profile Algerian opposition activist and TikTok influencer living in France under political asylum. Algeria condemned the arrests as a humiliation and violation of diplomatic norms, expelling 12 French officials. France retaliated by expelling 12 Algerian diplomats and recalling its ambassador, accusing Algiers of causing a brutal deterioration in relations. Further flare-ups followed. In July, a French-Algerian author, well known for his anti-Islamist views and as an outspoken critic of the Algerian regime, was sentenced in Algeria to 5 years in prison for undermining national unity, after voicing support for Morocco in an interview with a far-right French online outlet, where he reportedly said that France gave too much land to Algeria and too little to Morocco. Shortly after, a French sports journalist was sentenced to 7 years for advocating terrorism, after interviewing the head of a football club who also held roles in separatist movements within Algeria. Paris reacted strongly against these sentences, arguing that the 2 French citizens had been unlawfully detained and demanded their release. Migration has been another flashpoint. Whilst France has long been frustrated by Algeria's refusal to take back nationals subject to deportation orders, in recent months this has become an even more prominent issue, following the rise of the National Rally, who've accused Macron of taking too soft a line on immigration. The main issue boiled over in February, when an Algerian man, whom France had tried and failed to deport 14 times, was arrested for a knife attack, killing 1 person and injured 3. Soon after, Paris demanded Algeria accept the return of around 60 nationals or risk a review of a 1968 migration pact between the 2 countries, which grants Algerian citizens certain exemptions from French immigration rules. While critics on the French right present it as a generous privilege, we should say that it has been revised multiple times, including the introduction of visa requirements in 1986, leaving Algerians with only marginal advantages. Anyways, when Algeria refused to comply with Paris's deportation orders, Macron last week ordered tighter visa restrictions on Algerian diplomats, suspending an agreement that waived visa requirements for holders of diplomatic and official passports. Presumably partly in reaction to this spat, Algeria has been cultivating closer ties with Italy, another European nation seeking to increase its influence in North Africa. In recent years, Rome and Algiers have expanded cooperation across multiple fronts, overtaking France as Algeria's leading European trading partner, with €4.79 billion in bilateral trade in the first 4 months of 2025. Meanwhile, Algeria has become a critical gas supplier to Italy, and under Italy's Mattei plan, Italian businesses have invested significant volumes in Algerian infrastructure. Italy's pragmatic, non-confrontational approach makes for a more appealing partner for Algeria, and each flare-up with Paris nudges Algiers further into Rome's orbit, reshaping European influence in North Africa. Now, when you're diving into complicated topics such as this, it's quite easy to get caught up in what you know without even missing a beat. But what about the stories you don't see? Or what happens when the stories you do see are purposefully leaving out information to try and sway your thinking? Thankfully, our sponsor this week, Ground News, are experts at helping with just that. Ground News is a website and app that collects thousands of articles from around the world and puts them all in one place for you to easily compare how news is being covered by different outlets online. For each and every story, you can see the number of sources reporting on it, as well as the political bias, factuality, and ownership of said sources. For example, if we take this story on the IDF approving a plan for a new offensive in Gaza, you can see that there were 121 sources reporting on it, with 20 of them coming from the left and 19 of them coming from the right. You can even compare the headlines to see what either side is saying. For instance, the left portrays the offensive as a scorched earth policy, provoking fear and displacement, emphasising dire humanitarian fallout, starvation and civilian suffering. In contrast, the right highlights military professionalism, political resolve and troop readiness, describing the offensive as a necessary operation aligned with decisive majority support and focusing on Israel's firm stance on hostages. That's not all though. Ground News has tons of super handy features. Our personal favourite is their blind spot feed. Here you can find stories that have been disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, helping you challenge your perspective on someone else's media reality. Here at TLDR, we're passionate about helping you understand how bias may affect the media you consume, something Ground News also firmly believes in. Because of this, we're offering 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage Plan subscription by using the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. You can only access this discount through our link, so make sure you go to ground.news/TLDR or click the link in the description to get started today.